Outliers. I'm your host, Tyler Ardron, and we're back with the Millennial Outliers podcast. This is episode 3, and we're super excited to share what this episode is going to be about. But before you listen, please go like and subscribe on YouTube, any other platform that you're listening to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you are using them, also leave us a review as it helps us get in front of more eyes. You know, if you like it, we definitely want to share with others that may possibly like it. So for today's episode, we kind of hinted towards this in our first episode. It's called Momma Boys. This is episode 3. With me is my host, Renee Deal, and our mamas.
What's up, world? Good to see you guys. And we have our very, very VIP folks here that you've heard a bit about. So we'll let you guys very quickly go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell the world.
So I'm Gina Romano, and I'm actually the mother of Tyler Ardron.
And I'm Renee Deal, and I'm actually Justin's mom. Not his wife, but his mom.
We'll get to that, I'm sure, at some point. That comes up often, friends. But let's kick it off. So the thing I want to start with was that, things aren't always as they appear to be, right? So I know you guys have spending more time together. Tyler and I obviously have built a great relationship. Love seeing you guys do the same. And I know you guys went to the same high school, grew up in the same district, but lives weren't exactly parallel for the upbringing. So let's dive into that a little bit, because I think sometimes people see the later part of life, right? And they assume, oh, well, they must have always been successful, or they had these things growing up and something about them was just different, or the silver spoon, all these things. But that's not necessarily the story in both cases. So why don't we kick off with you first, Gina? Why don't you tell us a little bit about just childhood, parents, that life, and then we'll go over to Renee.
Sure. So I grew up in a little town called Runnymede. And how I know your mom is we actually went to high school together. So oddly enough, we really weren't friends, right, Renee?
Right.
But we knew of each other. This is a very small high school, so you kind of all go in the same circles. But we weren't very friendly in school, but we knew of each other. And then I graduated from high school. I did not go to college. And I started my career in doing some secretarial skills and things of that nature. And from there, I had Tyler. So I was 22, pregnant with Tyler. I obviously got married. Mm-hmm. I was married, and then I got pregnant with Tyler. And shortly during the pregnancy, I had some minor complications with like gestational diabetes. So my doctor wanted me to stop working. So I stopped working when I was pregnant with Tyler. I was about maybe 7-8 months pregnant. And from that point on, I pretty much was a stay-at-home mom. So I was very blessed to be able to stay home with him and raise him. And went through a divorce with his dad at some point when he was rather young. He was about 3.5 at the time. And shortly after that, I met my current husband, who I've been with for 30 years. I had 2 more sons. So Tyler, now he was one of 3 at that point. He is the oldest and the instigator with everybody. So, and then from there, I was a stay-at-home mom for about 12 years. And during that time, being out of work for 12 years is a very, very long time. So computers kind of took over the world. And when I left, it was very limited to what you can do on a computer. And then in the 90s is when it exploded. So I had to figure out what was I going to be when I grow up. I stumbled into sales only because I needed to get out of the house. I had 3 boys and they were driving me crazy. So I started doing home demonstrating. And through home demonstrating, I found out that I was really good in sales. And that's kind of where my professional journey started. But that's just a little nutshell of kind of where I started with Tyler. I was a very young mom, pregnant at 22 and had him at 23. So.
Yeah, that's gonna be our next topic. So we'll jump into that. So Nene, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about your upbringing?
So I am the youngest of 5. My mother was a single mom that raised us. And when Justin was saying about, perception, Gina and I went to school together and we knew of each other. And we just recently got together. And she's like, we were both brought up middle class. And I don't really consider myself middle class because my mom, struggled a lot. And I was that house that you were never allowed to go to when you were a kid. The neighbors would be like, don't go to the Malatieri house because there's no supervision. My mom worked very long hours and she was, doing her best to keep 5 kids in order. And 2 of the kids were very, very crazy.
Well, you wanted
an
those kids.
understatement.
Yeah, I was not one of them. I was
Oh,
the
yeah.
good. I was
Yeah.
the youngest.
making
so.
She was the most responsible one in the household as the youngest of five.
So, so it was funny when Gina said that. She's like, wow, I'd never have known that. So it was it was interesting. And I had Justin very young. I graduated high school pregnant. So I had him at 17. He likes to say 18, but I was actually 17.
Trying to throw Ralphie a bone, 17 and 20 these days is a little frowned upon, but it was the 80s, right?
I wasn't,
Things were a little
and,
different.
I wasn't your typical 17-year-old. So at 17, I was 35. So I was older than my year. So so that's my, and I feel like my journey brought me to where I am. So being young and independent and having a lot of responsibility as a child, because my mom needed us to always be okay and, take care of things, because she would leave for work at 6 o'clock in the morning and get home at 9 o'clock at night. And she drove the Schuylkill before there was the Blue Route. So it was a crazy, ride for her.
Yeah. So let's jump into that, because the three of you share that common theme somehow. Pat myself on the back. I'm the most responsible when it comes to when we have babies.
You're still like 25 though, right?
28.
28.
That's right. Jeez.
It's kind of young nowadays.
28. Yeah.
Yeah, it is young.
Yeah.
But so we have 22, 17, and you were 19, 18.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, right? Because there is a decent amount of the millennial population that was young parents as well. So talk a little bit about what was that like? So you're basically still a child, right? An adolescent. You're still kind of figuring out life, and now you're responsible for this human being, and not for nothing, not to pat both of us and all of us on the back, but you guys obviously did a good job, at least with your oldest. I can't speak to the other ones. But what were things that you were going through at that point that you just knew that I needed to do these things and set this example? What would you say for parenting advice for people who start young? How did you guys create such awesome kids?
I think for me, the best thing my mom ever taught me was unconditional love. So I think no matter what, your kids always need to know, no matter what they do, mistakes they make, that you are always going to be there and you are always going to love them. I always say to my kids, even if you killed one of them, I would still love you. Depends on which one. I can understand. You know which one you are. But and I think that's such a key ingredient. And being a young mom, I'm not gonna lie, I felt like it was so easy. I remember coming home from the hospital with Justin at 17, and I was by myself at the time because my husband, who wasn't my husband, he was my boyfriend. He was away at school. And I was like, this is so easy. I was like, he's sleeping. He slept 20 some hours a day. So I remember doing laundry and just being like, it really was. I think being younger was actually easier because I had the last one at 27. I was like, oh, I feel so old at 27. I can't bounce back as quick. So yeah, I really, and I feel like I grew up with Justin. I did. I learned a lot, and I was a different parent. I was actually stricter with Justin than I was with the other two. He would laugh. He would come home from college. He'd be like, well, I'm sorry, where are they? You didn't get blood types, social security numbers. He's like, Justin would do something. I would, give him a breathalyzer every weekend to make sure he wasn't drinking.
that was because of the first child.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think as you go down in your children, because you also have 3 as well, correct?
Yes.
So I think the as you get down to the third, you're just like, oh, hell, just do anything you want to do.
Except when the
after
third,
the baby book, right? It's we did the baby book for your third kid. I have nothing else for you.
Yeah.
Except when the third's a girl and you have 2 boys. So you are a little more protective. They could cross the street and walk to school. I think I'm still driving her at 26 years old. So, yeah, that was the only thing. I was like, no one's stealing the boys, but they might steal the girls. But I agree. You were you knew who was the first child.
Right.
When you were parenting with them, you're like, oh, that must be your first, because you're fine to drop them off at the movies.
Exactly. And similar to Justin, Tyler was an extremely good baby, so that made it very easy. He slept
awesome.
20
Good babies.
hours.
Let's
I
go.
know. It's so funny, the similarities between all 4 of us. It's crazy because same as Tyler was he was such an amazing child. He just slept, took his naps, never gave me a hard time. So being 22, just about by the time I gave birth, I was about 23. But he was really a pleasure. And for parents, and you guys are all parents, so we all know this. They don't come with a book, right? They need to come with a handbook. I don't understand why they don't come with a handbook, but you just kind of figure it out. And I think the unconditional love And obviously the instincts that you, I think, are just born with,
Mm-hmm.
that you have. And it does help to have somebody or a child that's extremely easy the first time around.
Yeah.
If the last one was born first, my third, he would have been the only one.
Yeah, I think Renee feels that way about the second.
Oh, absolutely. The second was not.
I've never met the second.
Most people
I
have. Most
barely
people
hear
don't even
stuff
know there
about
is a
him.
second.
You're not really allowed to talk about him. We got
Right
to
now,
delete
he's going to be
this.
pissed that we even talked about him.
We have one in the middle too. Same thing.
True.
He's incognito.
quiet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Statistician.
Very
Yeah.
private. We
Yeah.
just celebrated his big birthday and we went away and my daughter posted something and he's like, you got to take that down.
Oh my God, he's like the
Yeah.
complete opposite of Justin.
He deactivates his social media accounts for his birthday so people can't reach out to him. I'm like, oh my God.
That's crazy.
Nene and I are shouting from rooftops.
Yeah.
And we're
I saw a
posting
video
it
this
for the
morning
whole
about your
month.
birthday next year.
That's exactly just prepping people, getting ready for September. Just getting them
I
ready.
celebrated my
Pre-gaming.
50th for one whole year.
Yeah.
Truly.
And you did. I watched
I did,
you. That's
yeah.
very true. I
I
followed
did.
you. I was like, when is this birthday ending?
Actually, when I turned 50, I thought I should have been 51 because I started when I was 49 going to be 50 because everything was my 50th time. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right,
I was
right,
like,
right.
oh, I'm only 50?
Oh, that's funny. So I guess I'll talk about mine. So yeah, I was 18. I was super young, like the two of you. It was, I guess, 13 years ago now, 14 years ago. It was super scary. It was crazy. Like you just, couldn't imagine that, right, as a kid. But like you were saying, Renee, I have like an older soul myself. So even though I was 18, like I still, I was working full time and, I still kind of have that work ethic, so to speak. But it was also like my greatest blessing in that, it I guess gave me that carrot of like, I got to be successful. Because now it's not just me, I have a responsibility, to provide, for myself and my family. I grew up with him and it definitely, to both of your points, now I have two younger kids and there's stuff, that I guess when I was, when my son Chase was, younger child, that I didn't do that now, I want to do. So I had that like break in like a 10-year break in between the kids. It taught me a lot. And ultimately, I think, not only did it give me the work ethic and all that good stuff, but it made me, or it's going to make me a better father. Because, like I said, there's stuff that now I look back like, oh, I should have been doing this more, or I should be providing a better example in this, or, whatever. Or I should be trying to, talk more to my kids and be more open and stuff like that. So it's definitely helped me, on both sides of being responsible and then also, helping me be a better person and a better father. But I did want to ask, and I don't think I've ever asked this of you, Mom, so we're going to do this live on the
Oh,
spot.
I love it.
So 13 years ago, if you could imagine, well, I guess you could imagine because you did it, but telling your parents that, your girlfriend's pregnant. It's, it was, like I said, the scariest thing that I've ever done. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Even today, going through business and all that stuff, that still was like one of the, hardest things I've ever done. So, like I said, this is live on the spot. Like what, when everything happened,
What
like,
was I going through?
what were you
Knee-jerk
going
reaction,
through?
yeah.
Because
What
like,
was
I didn't really see, I know you're talking to Dad kind of on the side and you kind of, you've always been good at that, like going through hard times. Like you never showed that we were going through hard times. We went through you're in real estate, Dad's a contractor.
Right.
I didn't learn about like 08 and 09, I was in high school. So like, I didn't know there was like a big crash until like 6 years ago. I'm like, there's a big crash. We didn't see
was.
nothing low. And
We have battle wounds to prove it. Trust me.
yeah.
So yeah, our industry was affected. But what was I feeling? Well, I mean, I can remember the day, and you don't remember like, as time goes on, you forget a lot of things. But I remember exactly where we were at. I remember shutting the door. I knew something was wrong. He was not acting himself. He had lost a lot of weight. I didn't know exactly what was wrong. He never gave us a hard time. My husband will say that all the time. Like he never gave us an issue. And we knew something was wrong, but we couldn't figure out what it was. So we were getting ready to leave for vacation. Do you remember this?
Yeah, and Kara was there. Yeah.
Well, no, she was on her
she was
way to
coming.
the shore.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
aunt, who was like a sister to me, we're about 4 years apart. So I shut his door in his bedroom, and I was like, "You're not leaving this room until you tell me what is going on." And he was like holding back tears. And he was like, "You're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about." And so anyway, then he finally broke down and started to cry. And I hope I can share that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We cries, man.
We absolutely. We might cry on the show today. Who knows?
I'm kind of feeling it, so I'm trying to hold it back, but because it's so anyway. So he started to cry, and he said that his girlfriend at that time had been pregnant. So obviously, the first reaction is to freak out, like, "Oh my God, what did you do? This is your whole life ahead of you. I can't believe you did this." And it was so irresponsible. And then, I walked out of the room. I called my aunt, who's kind of like one of my best friends, and I told her, and she calmed me down. She was on her way from New Hampshire to the shore. We were going to the Jersey Shore at the time. She kind of calmed me down. And once I digested what had happened, I was like, okay, so we got this, right? There's worse things in life that can happen. Mm-hmm. He could have been on drugs. It could have been anything. I mean, we didn't know what it was. So it's a gift, and we'll figure it out. And it's been a gift in his life, and he really did the right thing, and he stepped up to the plate. And I don't even know if I ever had this conversation with you about his real dad. So his real dad was really upset about it, and he was taking it way harder than I was. And not that I wasn't taking it hard, but I'm the kind of person, okay, here's what we got. Mm-hmm. Now we got to figure out how we're going to, maneuver and make it work. So that's kind of the stance that I took. And his dad had said to me, I was driving down a road, and he was like, "That's it. He's not getting his college money. This is the worst thing that can ever happen." And I was like, and never in the time that since I had gotten divorced from him that I ever really stood up to him. And I was like, no, we need to, and now more than ever, he needs to go to college. He needs our support. And this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay.
There's that unconditional love, right?
He was like, okay, you're right. Like he just needs to be kind of snapped out of it. And he's a good man as well. And I knew if I just kind of presented it and told him like, this is what needs to be done. And Tyler's doing the right thing. He really did the right thing. He stood up, and he took responsibility for what had happened. And he decided that he was going to work full time, and he was going to go to college part time, and he would get his degree if it was the last thing that he did. And he did. He completed it. It took him longer than the average person at that age, but he did it. So, I mean, like I said, I'm just the kind of person that, you take a situation, no matter what it is, you figure out how you're going to attack it, and you go for it.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
While we're speaking of challenges, I guess we might as well throw this one out there. So not an exact parallel, but we've alluded to it on the podcast in the first episode, and that was my college career. So I don't know that we've actually ever really spoken about this either.
Got a lot of openings coming. We're bringing the family together.
Well, right? So for those who don't know, went to Wagner College. I was on a full ride for sports, for football. And by the end of my freshman year, we had the inclination that I wasn't going to make it in school. Did summer school, thought I took enough classes, didn't, had to do summer school, a second session while also going through training camp. Long story short, became academically ineligible. And ironically, it was, I believe, one of your guys' first big trips because my siblings are 7 and 10 years younger than me. So they're flying out of JFK, going on this European trip, and they find out their oldest is failing out of school. Same thing, very supportive through it, obviously very disappointed. I think nanny was probably both of our saving graces and part of that with conversations. But yeah, why don't, as a parent, I've always talked about how it affected me and obviously how you guys helped me through that. But how did that news affect you guys?
For me, the biggest thing was I didn't go to college either. So I really wanted my son to go to college. So when he was failing out, I was upset because I was a little disappointed. But I did talk to my mom. And she was like, same thing. She was like, it could be worse. He could be doing drugs, and it was a defining moment in Justin's life. And it was. It's going to define who you are and what you're going to do. So, and she said, he's not on drugs. No one's dying. He failed out of college. And my mom always, had that outlook. When you said about telling you were pregnant, I'm 17, telling my mom. And when I told her, she said, babies are always a blessing. It might not be the right time, but they're always a blessing. And
there he is.
Blessing. He is. He's a huge blessing. So
love it.
Yeah.
So with that college talk, I wanted to bring that up real quick to ask all of you, because I think, and I might have talked to you about this before, but when people bring up college, I talk about this, and I think like, so your age group, which I guess is, not millennial, what's the next one?
Gen X.
Gen
Gen
X.
X, yeah.
Yeah. So I think Gen X, it was instilled that, because not everybody went to college.
Right.
It was instilled that if you go to college, you're going to get a good job.
Right.
So, your children, Justin, me, and, every Gen X's kids went to college.
Right.
Like all of my friends went to college. All of your friends probably went to college for the most part.
We tried. We at least tried.
Right. But, and I think though now kind of that mindset's like shifting. Cause like I know as a parent myself, when I was growing up as a kid, it was always, you're going to college. Like you would say it all the time. Dad would say it all the time. But like, I don't do that as a parent because I think, that kind of mindset as a whole is like shifting in that I don't think you necessarily need college if you're not going for a specific like profession. So like if you're going to be an architect, you got to go to college. This is the roadmap. If you're going to be an attorney, if you're going to be a doctor, but a lot of like all my friends from past, high school weren't doing that, right? They're not doctors. They're not whatever. They went to school like me for business management or marketing or communications. And then they get out and they work at, a normal company and as a sales rep or whatever. And now they're say 100, 150, 200K in debt when they probably didn't need to do that. Because if they went in from a work experience standpoint, worked full time up until they're 25, then go get another job. I know as a business owner myself, when I'm looking to hire now, I don't even necessarily look at college degrees or anything. I look at like their work experience and their work ethic and the person. So I guess what I want to ask is like, what are your mindsets now on college? Because like I said, mine more so is if you know what you're going to do and it needs a college degree, that's the direction you're going to go to. But if you don't know what you're going to do, let's think about it first before committing to college and going that much in debt and then changing your major and all that stuff.
So after Justin, with my other two, I'm not a firm believer in college. I think that if you can pick and choose, like you might need certain classes, especially being in the business world. There was a belief I used to have that I could never be successful unless I went to college. And I've since got rid of that belief because it's can I say bullshit belief?
Of course you can.
Yeah, definitely. No, we're not to curse on here.
Exactly, because it is.
Yeah.
So with the other ones, when they were getting ready to go, my youngest daughter, she like took a lot of courses online and, she graduated in 3 years, but that's because what she wanted to do. I think in the business world, I would rather somebody follow me as a CEO of a company and learn more and then take a couple business classes than spend all that money. But to your point, you want to be a doctor, you want to, be an architect, you need it. Yeah. I always thought I would need that, but I feel like I could even probably watch YouTube videos and figure out how to do
100%.
Brain surgery.
Yeah,
like, I'm convinced.
100%.
I used to say I could do anything but that, but I'm pretty sure I could actually
move it towards that.
Yeah, I mean, you might not want to be my first patient.
10 steps how to do brain surgery.
Exactly. But nowadays, I get the commitment part, and for me, I just wish I would have went. I want to go as an adult just for the experience. Like I want to be in a sorority. And
There we go.
Yeah, I want to do that. That's going to be our
Moms
next.
go back to college.
I'll say old school mom style.
Absolutely.
Get a house.
Yeah, but I learned so much. It's like the school of hard knocks. Like I know so much because of experience and living it, and I think you have to do it. I can't read it in a book how to work with people, how to train people, how to be compassionate, or like you have so many instances when you're an employer. So I think that it's so hard. There's so many things that you're never going to learn in college. People graduate and they're like, I haven't used one thing for my degree.
Yeah,
so
all the time.
So that's I think you should pick a few classes, what you need, especially in the business world, and obviously, you need to know how to like run numbers, maybe some business management, now some internet courses so you can do social media, and then find a great CEO if that's what you want to be in business, and see if you can follow them.
Yeah.
So for me, I go back and forth with the whole college thing. I really do, because I did not go to college either, and I feel like I'm doing pretty darn good for myself, owning a brokerage in the real estate world. But I did make all three of my kids went. So, and I made the last one, which he was probably the one least likely, I guess. Next to you, maybe, but least likely. But, and I did make him, and it was really important. I think I wanted it more than he did. And he's actually followed in my footsteps, and now has become, he's pretty headed in a successful route with real estate. And did he really need it? No. But I do think that 4 years bought him maturity as well. Because if he would have came out of college, I don't think it would. I think his path would look a little bit different. So I'm not saying that you need college because more so even the academics, but I feel like the guys, they're coming out, whether a boy, girl, whatever, they come out and I think they have just so much to mature. And I think that 4 years buys you a lot of that maturity where I don't feel like if you would come out at 18, you'd be the same person.
Right.
Sure.
That's mostly the reason why I think you need it. I don't know if it's going to, kind of catapult you in success, in business success in any way. I don't think that at all.
Right.
But I think it does give you some time to mature and kind of find out who you are, because I think that takes time.
Yeah, no, agree.
I don't want to spend though $80,000 for my kid to
figure that
mature.
out.
That's
Right.
true.
Right.
I'll have him work at
But
McDonald's
what's the
for 4
alternative?
years.
Yeah, they could stay in my basement, I
Right.
guess, and hang out
Well,
and just do
get
their
a job.
maturity.
Yeah.
Get a job.
Do a
Like he
little
could have
co-op.
followed you around, do a little marketing
Right.
for
Yeah.
the 4 years, and then all right, he's ready to work.
Yeah,
kind of
that's
thing
true.
like that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
guess
more.
you look at it too from a money standpoint. Like if it's if,
Right.
if they're taking out loans and all that, it's going to set them back. Then maybe you consider that more. If you're paying cash or something, then it's like all right, you had that in the plans when they were born.
Right.
It's a different
A
scenario.
different, yeah. But I definitely, I don't think you need it. Let's put it that way. I don't think it need it to be successful, unless you're going for like a doctor or something where you have to have that
Yeah,
college.
lawyer, accountant. No, agreed. And I think especially like the 4-year universities, they're kind of that's where I think people, because they want the experience, right? They want to be away from home. They want to do the things. But the first 2 years, all you really do
Oh,
is
I'm a
take
big
your
advocate. You got
electives
it.
and-
Yep. You got to go to that
Yeah, go to
county
community.
college,
Absolutely.
community college. I mean,
you
it's
can
an
pay
amazing
cash for
thing.
that.
Right.
Agreed.
And now you can take classes online. Like there's so many ways to do it that
Yeah.
you could, I think you could do a little bit of both. That you can take some classes, even if you go away for a year and you get everything done.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever read about Steve Jobs, I mean, he picked and he took every class that he wanted, like calligraphy. He took that, and that's why the fonts. There's
one,
fonts. So it's like if you can pick it. Yeah. It is. It's like so many classes you take that in college that you don't even need, and you're just paying for.
Art history.
It's
Right.
it's a business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a 100% business. So
Yeah.
it's getting to be very, very expensive. There's a lot of people I know are going to disagree, and that's okay about college. But all of us have been successful. I know you did go to college, but I know a lot of people that have been, and they didn't.
100%. Yeah.
I think it boils down to the educators too. That was always my big beef. I think to your point, if you're going to be teaching people business, I think you should have ran a business at one point, right? Like I can read the book too. So I can figure out the text that you're going to teach us based off of. If you're not giving me real world experience and those kind of stories, then what's the point? Like I remember in macroeconomics and stuff, like the guy you knew he had never ran a business in his life. And you're like, what? You make whatever a year and
Right,
like that's
50 grand or whatever.
Yeah. Like I haven't understood all of that. So I would, it's really, like you guys have said, if you're going into something very professional, high end, so that those white collar jobs, then you're going to need that. But let's switch. So we were kind of talking earlier with the kids, how the kids originally kind of give you that why, right? But we've all hit those different parts of our lives, right? Where there's a story you're telling yourself that you can't get over that hurdle. And I know it's normal in our circles, but a lot of people don't invest in coaching and mentors and things like that. So why don't you guys talk about your journeys? What was a big hurdle that you guys, maybe it was, after you were done raising the kids and you were getting into the business world, maybe it was in between jobs and figuring out what the career path was. But what was a big hurdle that you kind of went through after the kids, and how did that kind of lead you to maybe like the coaching and seeking advice from others?
Yeah. So for me, after I had the kids, I think you were in maybe like 6th grade when I got my real estate license. And the real estate market was great. It was 2004. You needed a pulse, you could sell a house. Very similar to what happened in COVID. Everybody was buying houses and it was extremely easy. So I got into the industry. I did extremely well the first couple years. And I would say the biggest hurdle and the biggest thing that happened in my life that kind of rocked my world was the '08 crash. So we had just bought a house in where we currently live, and it was a stretch for us. It was close to $500,000. I bought a brand new car. I had 3 kids, and I was doing well. My husband is a contractor, as Tyler has said before. We were doing great. The markets were great, and then we settled in June, and in October the stock market crashed, and it literally halted what me and my husband both did. It was contracting, obviously he did home improvements. No one was able to do home improvements. You've seen builders go out of business, and real estate. I mean, every bank was, crashing. So there was no money to give at that time. So I remember sitting in January of '09, it would have been. And me and my husband were watching at the time. It was probably Regis and Kelly or Regis and Kathy Lee. And he's on one side of the couch. I'm on the other side of the couch. Kids are at school. We literally had no work. And we both looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I didn't want my kids to find that out. I mean, we had bought the house of our dreams. It was, it was a dream home for us. And so my husband, oddly, crazy enough, he used to walk around with he had a jacket with his company name on it, and he would walk around Home Depot, hand his cards out to anybody that he would see that was looking at something, tile. He'd be like, hey, do you need me to do a backsplash? And for me, I was like, okay, so now I have to learn how to sell houses? Like, I was just selling them, and now there's nothing. And I realized that I had to learn how to market myself. I had to learn how to negotiate. Like, I was just selling houses and didn't really know what I was doing. So both of us, luckily, we kind of did what we had to do to survive. And I remember, and you probably don't know this, but Ty, I would get the piggy banks and I would cash in their change, and that's how I'd give them their lunch money. I was like, this is
steal my change.
Crazy.
Can I get that back down?
with interest.
With interest.
Yeah,
What the heck?
I mean, so for me, that was one of the things that was like really rocked our world, and just the financial issues.
I do remember the internet going down a few times. I'm like, Mom, pay the Comcast bill. I'm trying to game here.
If it was storming and the electric went out, I was like, oh no.
Oh, I forgot to pay it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was really bad. I mean, and anybody that was at that during that time and had businesses that were affected by that, I don't think you forget those battle wounds. So that was probably the most thing that I remember that was really like a huge thing in our life. So, and we survived, and we're still in that same house, and yeah, you figure it out. You just do what you got to do.
Absolutely. How about you, Renee?
Gosh, so many things in my life, but really for me, a lot of my, as I got older with my kids and I was in the restaurant world. That was the first part of my career life. And then I wanted to get out of that and I went into sales. So when I did, I wound up with it was a big payroll company that I worked for, and they were big into like Tony Robbins. And I went to my first event, and it just changed my life as far as, the coaching of it and giving, like, I didn't understand so many things about, like my beliefs and how much it held me back. So that was like a huge thing for me to go. And one of the things was about college. Like, I limited myself because I thought not having a degree I would never make enough money. So I would stop myself, I would have a sale and I'd be like, great job. I made enough money. I don't need to make any more money. Like I'm a $100,000 girl, and that's kind of where I lived. So, doing that was my first one. And then when I turned 50, I was like, I need something more in my life. Like I want more. And I did another Tony Robbins event, and I did a lot of coaching with them. And, everybody has a primary question that they're always asking themselves. And mine was, am I enough? Like, everything I did was to prove that I was enough. So I had to be successful so I could be enough. And I'm like very giving, and I did all these things so I could always feel enough about myself. Now I'm like, am I enough? I think I'm too much sometimes for people.
She's a lot.
Amen.
She does.
I'm a lot. And it's funny because the second time I went back to Date with Destiny, I was like, I don't even know what I'm gonna work on. Like, am I enough? I'm like, I'm too much. So
And
awesome.
she actually got me hooked on when we
Yes.
connected again after 30 years, I guess.
Yeah.
We reconnected from the payroll company. I was opening up my company, and I reached out to Renee, and I seen the way she was living her life. And I've always done coaching as well. Through when I was about 10 years into real estate, I started to do real estate coaching, which I still do today. But then Renee kind of opened my eyes up to the whole Tony Robbins world and some other things that she does, YBL, and yeah, I mean, it's been life changing for me as well. So
why don't we jump into that with coaching? Why don't you tell folks a little bit about YBL now? That's the current group, and kind of what that has done for mindset, for your business, for travel. for all of it.
So it's your best life. And it was some people that I knew in the Tony Robbins world, and they started their own company. And it's so hard to find like-minded people. So it's so nice. And, with Gina, I have absolutely found that where, you want people to be on your side, and you want, there's people in the group that they are way above me financially, spiritually, everything. And I learned from them. And I made some great friends and connections, and I get coached. My team gets coached. My COO gets coached. And I mean, again, they helped me push through, even though I thought I got through some of my beliefs. There's other beliefs that like, you're always like, well, that's not true. Like, I can't do that. And then, it's like, you can. I mean, you really can, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. So it's been we travel together. We do 4 trips a year, and they're family, faith, finance, and fitness. And I've made some great relationships, and they've coached me in so many areas of my life, because everything is related as far as I'm concerned, like your relationship with your kids. It's the same as with your friends and with family and your employees. And it's like who you are as a person is who you are in all aspects of your life. Yeah. So I've learned so much, and, I've been able to share that with, all the people around me. So it's been it's a great community. And if you're not coaching, whoever it's with, you should, because to have a peer group that has your back, is cheering you on, and who is like-minded and gives you something to strive for. So there's always the Warren Buffetts of the world, the Jeff Bezos of the world, but that's a great, place to get to. And even if you miss, guess what? I'll be happy if I make 1/10 of what Jeff Bezos makes, right? So it's like, these are the people that are going to push you and not be jealous of the things that you do. And that's what, the people I surround myself with. I've been very blessed. So the coaching has helped, and the people that I'm attracted into my life.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with our Harvest community. I mean, that's the big thing, right? It's that other like-minded, somewhat similar age, kind of pushing each other. But what I like the most is learning from other people's mistakes, right? Like typically people won't always give you the success recipe, but they'll tell you the things that they tripped up on so you can avoid that hurdle down the road. And I think that's pretty invaluable as well. But to your point, it is just having that where, it's not gossip and drama. We all have those friends that you get in the room and all they want to do is talk about people. But when you're in there and you're talking business and strategies and kind of where we're going next, it's worth every penny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also seeing other people do it, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you don't see someone is doing this, and you're only looking at Warren Buffett, like it seems like it's impossible. Right. But when you're in, a group like that we're in or whatever, you see someone buying Airbnbs or, whatever, flipping houses or doing stuff like that. You're like, oh, this dude's doing it. I talk to him once a week or whatever. I can do it. You know what I mean? So it shows you that you're able to also, do those things, and removing that like glass ceiling, so to speak, that you make yourself of, I'll never be able to, open a business because you got to be rich to do that, or whatever limited beliefs you're telling yourself. Mm-hmm. But then when you are able to talk to like-minded people who have done it already, it makes you, strive to do that yourself, and makes you feel that you can do it, yourself.
Yeah. Now, speaking of limiting beliefs, this might be a little controversial, but they say it's a man's world out there, right? And clearly, you two have really affected the two of us. We've taken a lot of our cadence from you guys. So, how have you guys? Payroll definitely pretty male dominated. Real estate, I would say probably male, but there's a good representation of females in there. But what have you done to really just ensure when you walk in the room or the meeting or on social media that your presence is felt and you're not just kind of pushed aside as just another broad in the room?
Well, broad, how did that work?
It's funny that you bring that up, because real estate is a woman-dominated business as far as the agents go. But a lot of the brokerages are all male-driven. A lot of the companies are started by males. Mm-hmm. So that's probably one of the main reasons that I started my company, actually.
A little chip on the shoulder.
Well, listen, I'm 5'0", right? So, I mean, I think I have a pretty big presence. I have a big personality. I'm not sure as big as yours, Renee. But
you do have a big personality. That's why we get along well.
Yeah. But I wanted to kind of change that pattern and open up a company that was owned by a woman. And my ultimate goal, and I don't know who's heard me say this before, but I'd like to be the female version of a Gary Keller and franchise my company out at some point. So I think it needs to be done. And actually, tomorrow, Renee's kind enough to be one of my speakers at another women's event that I'm starting with another partner. It's a different company that we formed. It's called More Than a Woman, and it's just about women empowerment. And I think it's about time that we need something that kind of is also good. We shed light. I'm very inspirational as well. I believe 80% of your success starts in your mind. So, it's just all good things. You feed your soul constantly, then you'll produce good things. And that's kind of what I believe. So, but that's kind of how I like I said, I opened my company because I felt like there needed to be more female owners of companies. So I've been doing it 4 years and so far so good.
Doing great. So like I said, my first career was the restaurant world, and it's a very male dominated world. I never felt like discriminated or kept back. I did feel like in the restaurant world, I had to prove myself harder. So I knew the front of the house, but I didn't know the back of the house. So I really made sure I trained and learned it. Like I could run it better than anybody. So I guess in that aspect I did. But, I had a very strong role model. My mom was a very strong woman. So it made me a strong woman. And it wasn't the story I told myself. Like I can do anything a man can do. I can probably do it better, but it's like
let them know,
I do.
girl.
Yeah, I was like, it's funny with Gina's thing. They were like, "What's your theme song?" And I was like, I really wanted the "I can bring home the bacon, fried up in a pan," because I just feel like I get the best of both worlds. I get to be a mom, and I get to be a boss, and I get to, it's like I get to do it all. So it's like and
grandma
and a mom. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like how rewarding is that? So. I don't feel like it's a man's world. It's never been to me. I was paid my value, and I, was never discriminated against because I was a woman. So, and maybe because I'm a lot, so I made it known, and I wasn't afraid. And unfortunately, maybe not everybody is like that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we wouldn't be in this world without you, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's true.
And I think there's something to pay us a compliment. I think we're both pretty emotionally intelligent, and I think that comes from having strong mothers, because I've always said that I've been surrounded by strong women my whole life. Our families, I don't know, I have like 50 cousins and there's 3 men, right? There's like, it's
one's
all,
his brother.
yeah,
So.
and one's my brother, right? Like one other male cousin on each side. So it's just, I've always been a little bit more in tune with what women need and the wants, and, oxygen, food, compliments, 3 biggest things, right?
All right.
But it's something that's very important for kids in general to have. I think a lot of times you hear about the father figure, but obviously the strong mother is, in my opinion, probably the more important of the 2 roles. Only a man can show you how to be a man, of course, but there's a lot to life outside of just being tough and being able to be durable and have grit and things of that nature as well. So
You're raising 3 daughters, right?
yeah, 3 little girls and 1 boy, so quite a bit of work cut out.
What is there different parenting, I guess, for both of you? Because my mom, we just have all boys in our family.
Yeah.
So is there different parenting that you will do with your daughters as opposed to your sons?
Not really. I really try to just allow everybody to kind of be rough and tough, right? I kind of want the girls, Renee and I kind of go back and forth. I would like them all to wrestle. She thinks that's a little aggressive.
I'm going to say it's a little too much. I'll agree with Renee.
But it was like that, or like martial arts, right? Because again, big picture for me, I'm like, women being assaulted, I would like them to at least have an idea of
Be able
how
to protect themselves.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And that's what it comes to.
But wrestling's a little too
But
far.
not mess up their face. Or,
it's a little too far.
That's not,
I think the martial arts is the best.
Like
way.
kickboxing or Muay Thai.
Yeah. Gianna's done taekwondo,
Yeah,
so
stuff
probably
like
back
that.
into that.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, I really, we just try to really hold a high bar for them and lead by example in the same way as, we've talked about the health, just kind of showing them that this is why you have to take care of your body, and then trying to, finances at a young age. Just really, I haven't even been able to explain that to my wife yet. So
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one.
Not even going there with kids, but school wise, it's it's really just being a great person, right? Being a contributing part of the community of whatever you're in, not being afraid to be the leader, and not being afraid to go against the grain. It's a lot of times you have to be successful, kind of go the other way of what everybody else in the world is doing. And I think I learned a lot of that, and obviously from Renee. She did a lot of things kind of her way, not the way of most of society. But you realize that is the clear separator, right? Like doing the things that most people won't, so you can live the life that most people want to.
Right.
And yeah, so we've talked about too. Maybe you can put a little more insight on this. We have our family mantra of like the best day ever, right? And it spills into payday. So like, where'd that come from? What's that mean to you?
So wait, you're the creator of this?
No, actually, Maddie was the creator.
Oh, Maddie did create it.
Said,
Okay.
One day she said the best day ever.
So it's a whole family. I thought it was just his thing.
No,
oh no, Maddie did. I mean, it's
everybody at Payday says it now.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
We need a mantra.
Exactly.
Get on that.
So
You created.
Exactly. What I didn't share is at a young age, I lost a brother when I was 3, and then I lost my father when I was 6, and I lost my older brother in my 20s. So life is very precious to me. Like it is a gift, and you never know when's going to be your last breath. So I do live every moment without regret. I don't really fight with people because it's just not worth it. Like, I feel good about, when my brother died and I was in my 20s, like I had a good relationship with him, and, and it was tough because he was very heavy into drugs. So, but I made my peace with him, and I live like you have to live your life. Every day has to be your best day. Every decision you make, it's like you have to do it for joy and happiness, because that's where I want to live. I want to live in joy and happiness, and I want every day to be the best day ever.
I think it's really important with your mindset of that, right? Like there's basically 2 things that could have happened there. People, it's not an uncommon story, right? That people have lost people in their lives. But usually folks either one direction is they kind of never get close to anybody again because they're constantly afraid of losing people, or they thoroughly enjoy every second and maybe spend too much time with certain people, just to constantly, build that relationship, and obviously to share and create more memories and embrace the moment. And I've definitely learned that from you, and I really hope that a lot of my friends and people around me, they feel that energy from us, that we want to leave people in a better state. We want to create memories with them. We want to help them advance their lives and just do better. I mean, that's one of my favorite compliments when people are like, I love watching your content just because it's so positive. Like it brings a smile out of your face. And
it's like inspire and aspire, right? Like I want to inspire people, and I want to aspire them to be more like me, to live that life. So
I think that's why we're here, right?
Exactly.
Because I feel like we all kind of have that common thread, and same with us. It's our family time is our most precious time. Don't you feel like that? Right?
Give me the eyes.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, it is. That's really what's at the end of the day. That's what's important, right? So the things can come and go, but it's the memories that you build and the quality time that you spend together, and what you reflect on other people.
Right. Agreed.
So.
Yeah. So we're going to sign off here shortly because we're almost at time. But before we do, I've been asking our guests this question. So I guess we'll, because it's coming off the cup, whoever wants to answer first, we'll go with that. But what's the biggest lesson that you've learned through a failure? Yeah, this is always a toughie.
I mean, I guess I'll start. I feel like, failures are gifts, right? So anything in life that happens, and you learn from it. It's not really a failure, but it's the only thing I think can come to mind is people are going to be surprised that know me, but I have anxiety, like really bad anxiety. And it's definitely has people didn't know for years. And it was something that held me back from things. And I overcame it. But it's nice because I think people see me and I seem so confident. And when I tell people I have anxiety, they're like, seriously? I hate to fly. I'm anxious the whole time, but I do it. So
and you're to Europe, you're going to all over the place.
Exactly. You went to, where did you go?
The Maldives.
The Maldives.
Yeah, 25 hours on 2 planes.
I'm totally shocked with that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's when I share that I have it, to me, it was such a big, oh my God, I'm afraid of death. That's my whole thing. So my anxiety is over that. So it's not really a failure, but it's the thing that I thought of that, that by acknowledging it and learning about it, that it led me for people to be like, oh my gosh, if you have that, then
It's okay to have.
Yeah, it's okay, right?
Yeah.
Like it's more acceptable. Like, oh, I don't even talk about it. Like now I talk
Yeah.
about it because it's, it used to be all in my own head.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would just like be like, oh my God, I'm going to drop dead sitting here with them and they're not going to know what to do with me.
Right.
We'll be like, move over now.
Yeah, exactly. Kick me out of the way. So,
No, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
one because I think, like you were saying, it shows people that it's all right to have like that anxiety. I think now more than ever in the times that we're in, it's like just with emotional intelligence and mental health, like it's definitely a lot more spoken about than it was probably when you were, a kid.
Absolutely.
Now it's like, most people probably will tell you they have anxiety,
Right.
but like you said, showing how you're traveling and getting over that is huge. And it shows people that they can do it too.
Yeah, it's possible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I can't think of anything.
You got something in there.
Just no failures in your life, huh?
No,
Isn't that great?
I actually, there's probably so many that I don't even know what to pick because I feel like you learn and you grow the most when you fail.
Yeah.
Right. The easy times, it's easy to do the right thing, but what you really stand up is when you have failures in your life. So I can't think of one particular time or one particular thing, but I am a firm believer in that. That's where you learn. That's where you grow. Is where you fail, and that's just a part of life.
Yeah. A perfect example, I guess, was earlier, like you were saying with real estate. You started and it was easy, right?
I know.
So
And I was like, oh,
the
you know
easy
what?
part, all I do is show up.
Yeah.
And then the crash happens. And you're like, wow, I need to rebrand. I need to sharpen skills. I need to just do a lot
I need to
of
learn it,
things.
period.
Right? Yeah. Know the ins and outs of it, understand, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. You really don't learn a ton from wins, right? It's always the losses are the lessons. And that's what really gets you to move the most forward. You win and it's like, we'll call it 0.5% that
Right.
you get better, right? But you'll lose and it gives you the opportunity 10, 15, 20% better. If you go back, reverse or engineer what you did wrong,
Yep.
what the obstacles were, and then you just look forward and figure out how to avoid them again.
Yeah, I was listening to a clip actually earlier by a podcaster. His name's like Jocko.
Jocko Wilkins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear the one when he talks about like good? So he what he was saying was in the story, he would have this employee that would always come to him and be like, oh, like this happened, like a crazy story. No. And every answer he would say was good. And then, so then the guy would come to him and, give us a problem. And he goes, but I know where, and the guy goes to Jocko, well, I know what you're going to say already. You're going to say good. And he goes, yeah, why am I going to say that? And the guy kind of like repeats it back to him. He says, it's good because that's where you're going to get up, you're going to dust yourself off, and you're going to learn, the most from this instance. And he says, it's good because if you weren't alive now, this wouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
Right. So it's good because we're still alive. We can figure out, what went wrong or whatever. Get up, dust ourselves off, and learn from it, and then attack. Be on the offense. And I thought that was perfect kind of fit in for this, in that it's good that you got to look at it not like woe is me kind of thing, which a lot of people unfortunately go into that, right? Sometimes
mentality.
Yeah, and sometimes there's always something going on, right? Maybe you've had an employee like that, or you've had a person like that where it's like, all right, this is happening, and then they're good, and then something else happens. It's just always happening.
Right.
And everybody knows people like that, right? But looking at it from a different aspect of, instead of, oh, why is it always me? Doing the good, this has happened to me. What am I going to do about it? Right? I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to learn what went wrong here, and it's not going to happen again. And actually, Dad, I still remember this, would talk me through that whole, when I had Chase and everything, and he goes, this is happening. It's already happening, but the biggest thing that I've learned throughout life is that people who kind of are on that downward spiral, the reason they're on that is because they made that mistake multiple times. So, learn from this mistake and don't let it happen again. Right. So that's kind of like something that I've learned, throughout the years.
And the mistake is what you learn from, right? And it became your greatest gift.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
my grandson, his son, Chase.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I think we've
Yep.
all shared something that happened to us that wasn't the best story, right? And what we did with it. And I think that's what it's all about.
It
Yeah.
could have been earth shattering, but
Yeah.
like you said, wound up being a blessing.
Yeah.
They say pressure is a privilege. And
Yeah.
it was a privilege to have you both here today. This was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
Ty, why don't you let everybody know
Sign
You're
off.
the plug guy. Let everybody know where to go.
All right. So I hope you enjoyed our episode 3, Mama's Boys. But before you finish the episode, like I said earlier, go like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other platforms. You can look us up on social media. Tyler Ardron. My Instagram's Ardron. We have Justin Deal. You want to share yours?
Deal 6972 on
Before
IG.
you guys sign off, you want to kind of say how people can get a hold of you?
Yeah.
Gina?
Google Gina Romano. Really,
Boom.
you'll find me.
Google it.
She said first page,
Google
first
me.
one.
Look at Payday Employer Solutions, and you can find us on there. Follow us on social media or Renee Deal on social media.
Awesome.
I'm actually Maltieri Deal, but that's all long to spell.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, like Justin said, it was a pleasure having you both. We were excited to get this episode shot. And how we sign off, Justin?
Always world. Best day ever.
Best day ever.
Best day ever.
Now we get